Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In this video what we're going to look on is algebraic fractions, right? And we're going to focus on how we add and subtract algebraic fractions. We're going to review how we add and subtract fractions. So here I have a fraction which is 3 over 5 plus 2 over 7. How would you add this fraction? First, you would need to find a common denominator of 5 and 7. And that common denominator would be 35, right? And then after you identify that common denominator, what you're going to do is that you're going to take this denominator to divide your common denominator. And the result that you get, you take it to multiply the respective numerator. So here, this is how you would do it. So the common denominator is 35. You take 5 to divide 35, that gives you 7. And you take the 7 to multiply the numerator, which is 3, and you write it in a bracket. You put back your plus sign. Then you take 7 to divide 35, that would give you 5. And you take that 5 to multiply 2. So you write it like that. And then after that, you carry out the multiplication. So 7 times 3, that would give you 21. And 5 times 2, that would give you 10. And then at that stage now, you just combine the numerator to give you one term. So 21 plus 10, that gives you 31. And you keep your common denominator of 35. Alright? Let's look at another example. So here you have 25 over 3 minus 5 over 2. Again, you find a common denominator of 3 and 2, and that would be 6. Right? And then you're going to repeat the process. So 6 would be your common denominator. You take 3 to divide 6, that gives you 2. You take the 2 to multiply 25, and you write it like this in a bracket. Put back your subtraction sign. Take 2 to divide 6, that gives you 3, and you take the 3 to multiply the 5. Now 2 times 25, that's going to be 50, and 3 times 5, that's going to be 15. So it's going to be 50 minus 15, that leaves us with 35 over 6. Alright, distributive law. So here I have an example. We have 3 times 2x minus 3. What this means, we are taking 3 to multiply each term inside of the bracket. So we're taking 3 to multiply the 2x, and we are also taking 3 to multiply 4. Alright? So it would be 3 times 2x, that's going to give us 6x. And 3 times 4, that's going to give us 12. And that is it. So it's going to be 6x minus 12 times the first bracket. The approach is that you're going to take this 6 to multiply each term inside of the first bracket. And then you're going to take this minus 5 to multiply each term inside of the second bracket. And this is how you would write it. So it's going to be 6 times 3x, right, plus 6 times negative 1, minus 5 times x, minus 5 times 2. Alright? And then when you simplify this, you would end up with 6 times 3x, that gives you 18x, and 6 times negative 1, that gives you minus 6, and minus 5 times x, that gives you minus 5x, and minus 5 times 2, that gives you 10. Here, you have two different types of terms. You have some term with x, and some terms are just numbers. The numbers are referred to as constant, right? So at this stage, what you would do is to group the like terms and then simplify them, right? So therefore, here, this is how you would group the like terms. I just rearranging this step and putting the like term beside each other. And then after you simplify now, 18x minus 5x, that will give you 13x. And minus 6 minus 10, that gives you minus 16. Alright? Now, the learning objective for this class, at the end of this video, students should be able to correctly add algebraic fraction. Students should be able to correctly subtract algebraic fractions, students should be able to correctly simplify algebraic fractions using the lowest common denominator, and students should be able to correctly use the distributive law to remove brackets. And I'm sure would have met objective 4 already. Now, addition and subtraction of algebraic fraction. The method used to add and subtract algebraic fraction as follows. Step 1, first determine the lowest common denominator, which is the LCD. That is the lowest common multiple of the denominators of the algebraic fractions. Step 2, we then express each algebraic fraction in terms of the lowest common denominator. Alright? And step 3, the distributive law is then used to remove all brackets in the numerator if there is any. Step 4, like terms in the numerator are grouped together and then added and subtracted. And finally, the fraction is reduced to its lowest term if possible. Alright? Alright, so the first example that we have here is x over 3 plus x over 5. First step is to find the lowest common denominator of 3 and 5, and that would be 50. Now you're going to take this denominator to divide the 15, and the result you take it to multiply the respective numerator. So 3 into 15, that gives us 5, and then we must take the 5 to multiply the numerator of x, and write it like this here. And then we put back our plus sign, and then 5 into 15, that gives us 3, and we take that 3 to multiply x, right? At this stage, you're going to just carry out your multiplication. So 5 times x, that gives us 5x, and 3 times x, that gives us 3x. So here now, note that 5x and 3x are like term. It means that they can be added to give us one term. So 5x plus 3x, that gives us 8x over our common denominator. And we are finished at that stage. Alright? Sorry, we have 3 over x plus 4 over 3x minus 5 over 4x. Again, the aim is to find a common denominator. Right? And the aim is that we want to use the lowest common denominator of x, 3x, and 4x. And that's also going to be 12x. Right? Now, so the common denominator is 12x. We're going to take x to divide 12x. So 12x divided by x, that leaves us with 12. What should we do with the 12? Take it to multiply the numerator 3. Then 3x into 12x, that's going to give us 4. What should we do with the 4? Take it to multiply the numerator of 4 here. And then 4x into 12x, that gives us 3. What should we do with the 3? Take it to multiply the numerator of 5. Right? So that's how your second line there should look. And then we're going to carry out the multiplication now. So 12 times 3, that's going to give us 36. Put back our plus sign. 4 times 4, that's going to give us 16. And then put back our subtraction sign. And 3 times 5, that's going to be 15. Here now, what we're going to do is to just combine the terms. So a positive 16 minus 15, that gives us a positive 1. And we put back our 36. And then 36 plus 1, that's going to be 37 over 12x. Alright? Now for our second example that we have 7 all over 9pq plus 5 over 18p. Again, the aim is to find the lowest common denominator, which is going to be 18pq. We're going to take each denominator to divide the common denominator. The result, we take it to multiply the respective numerator. So 9pq into 18pq, Note that PQ will cancel out, and 9 into 18 goes 2 times. So we take that 2 to multiply the numerator of 7. So we write it here, 2 times 7 in a bracket. Put back our plus sign. 18p into 18pq. 18p will cancel out 18p. What we left back with is q. What should we do with the q? Take it to multiply the numerator of 5. Alright? Then we're going to carry out the multiplication. So 2 times 7, that gives us 14. And q times 5, that gives us 5q. Can this fraction be simplified any further? No. The fraction is already in its lowest term. So that is our answer there. Next problem. We have 5x over 3y minus 4y over 9x. Again, we need a common denominator. What would be a common denominator here? Note that 3 can go into 9 and 9 can go into itself. So our common denominator would be 9xy. Alright? Now 3y into 9xy, that's going to give us 3x. What should we do with the 3x? Takes it to multiply the numerator of 5x. Put back our subtraction sign. And then 9x into 9xy. 9x will cancel out 9x. What we're left back with is y. What should we do with the y? Take it to multiply our numerator of 4y. Right? And then at that stage, what you're going to do is carry out the multiplication. So 3x times 5x, that's going to give us 15x squared. Because 3 5s is 15, x times x is x squared. Put back our subtraction sign, and y times 4y, that gives us 4y squared over our common denominator. Can this be simplified any further? No, the fraction is in its lowest term. So that's how we leave it there. Now to another problem. 8m minus 3n all divided by 5 minus 2m minus 5n all over 3. Again, the aim is to find a common denominator of 5 and 3, and that would be 15. So you're going to take 5 to divide 15, and the result that you get, take it to multiply the numerator. So how many groups of 5 can you get out of 15? That would be 3. What should I do with the 3? Take it to multiply the numerator, which is 8m times minus 3n. But you write it in a bracket. Note that the bracket here implies multiplication, because the numerator is right as a difference. Now put back your minus sign, and then you ask yourself, how many groups of 3 can you get out of 15? And that is going to be 5. What should you do with the 5? Take it to multiply the numerator, which is 2m minus 5n. Now at this stage, what we're going to do is to apply the distributive law. Alright? So we are going to apply the distributive law at this stage. And the distributive law states that whatever is outside of the bracket, we are going to take it to multiply each term inside of the bracket. So we are going to take this 3 to multiply our first term inside of the bracket, which is 8m. And we're also going to take this 3 to multiply the second term in the bracket, which is minus 3n. Here now, when you are distributing the 5, because it's a minus sign here, you have to treat it as a negative number. So let me circle it. So what you're going to do, you are going to take this negative 5 to multiply each term in the second bracket. So we're going to take negative 5 to multiply 2m, and we're also going to take negative 5 to multiply negative 5n. And that's how we're going to carry out the distribution there. Now, if you take 3 to multiply 8m, that gives you 24m. If you take 3 to multiply negative 3n, that is going to give you 9n. And if you take minus 5 to multiply a positive 2m, that's going to give you a negative 10n. And here you have to be very careful, because if you take a negative 5 to multiply a negative 5n, that's going to change the sign to become a positive 25n. At this stage, what are you going to do? You are going to group the like terms, right? So if you note here, we have a term that has m. So that's one like term, and we have a next term here that has m. So we can group the like terms, right? So if we rearrange our numerator, what we will have is 24m minus 10m plus 25n minus 9n. Now, at this stage now, you just carry out the operations. So 24m minus 10m, that's going to give you 14. And positive 25 minus 9n, that's going to give you a positive 16. At this stage, you cannot simplify any further, right? The fraction is in its lowest term, so we leave it just like that. Now to our next problem. Here now we have 3 times x plus 4 all over 7 subtract 4 times x plus 1 all over 5. And we are asked to subtract these fractions. Again, before we do the subtraction, what would be nice is to do the distribution first. So it would be nice that you take 3 to multiply the first term here, which is x, and then take 3 to multiply your second term here, which is 4. And then we're going to do the same thing over here, which is to take 4 to multiply our first term, which is x, and take 4 to multiply our second term, right? So if we distribute, what we will get is that 3 times x, that gives us 3x, and 3 times 4, that gives us positive 12. And all of this should go over your original denominator of 7. Go back your subtraction sign. And then it's going to be 4 times x, that gives you 4x. And 4 times positive 1, that gives you positive 4. And all of this is placed over 5, right? At this stage now, what you're going to do is to find a common denominator of 7 and 5. And your common denominator would be 35, right? And then you do the process all over again that you did here, which is to take this 7 to divide the 35. The result that you get, take it to multiply your numerator. So you ask yourself, how many groups of 7 can you get out of 35? That would be 5. What should you do with the 5? Take the 5 to multiply the numerator, which is 3x plus 12. Go back your subtraction sign. Then ask yourself, how many groups of 5 can you get out of 35? That would be 7. What should you do with the 7? Take the 7 to multiply the numerator, which is 4x plus 4. Now from here again, what you're going to do is to use up your distributive law again. So what you're going to do, you're going to take this 5 to multiply the 3x. And then you're going to take the 5 to multiply the 12. And then you're going to acknowledge that this is a minus 7, so you have to cheat it as a negative 7. So let me circle it again. And what you're going to do is to distribute this negative 7 to each term, meaning that you take negative 7 to multiply 4x, and then you take negative 7 to multiply positive 4. Right? And note there that all the signs in the bracket will change. So if you carry out the multiplication, 5 times 3x, that gives us 15x. And 5 times positive 12, that gives us positive 60. At this stage now, what you have is negative 7 times 4x, that gives us a negative 28x. And negative 7 times a positive 4 going to give us a negative 28. At this stage, what you are going to do is to group the like terms. So note we have 2 sets of terms. One with x's and the other without x's. But note that when you are rearranging the terms, you must pay attention to the sign that is in front of it. So you must rearrange it with the sign that is in front of it, right? So when you rearrange it, that's what it will look like. So you will have 15x minus 28x plus 60 minus 28. And what you do, you just carry through with the operations there. So 15x minus 28x, that gives us a negative 13x, plus 60 minus 28, That gives us a plus 32. And you're finished. At this stage, it cannot be simplified. The fraction is in its lowest term. That brings me to this activity. So what I want you to do is to pause the video at this stage, and you are going to complete the activity and then come back to check your answer. All right? So how would you do this problem here, which says, we have a over 2 plus a over 3 plus a over 6. Again, you need to find a common denominator of all three denominators here. So we want a common denominator. And that common denominator would be 6, because all three numbers can be divided. Can divide 6 equally, right? So how many groups of 2 can we get out of 6? That would be 3. What should we do with the 3? Take it to multiply a. So we're going to write it here. So it's going to be 3 times a. Alright? Now we put that in a bracket. And then we put back our plus sign. And then we ask ourselves, how many groups of 3 can we get out of 6? That would be 2. What should we do with the 2? Take it to multiply the numerator of a. And put it in a bracket. Then we put back our plus sign. And then we're going to do the same thing. So we have, how many groups of 6 can we get out of 6? That would be 1. What should we do with the 1? Take it to multiply our numerator of a there. So it's going to be 1 times a. And we put that in a bracket as well. At this stage, now we're going to carry out the multiplication. So 3 times a, that gives us 3a. Write it here. And then put back our plus sign. And then 2 times a, that gives us 2a. And put back our plus sign. And then 1 times a, that gives us a. And all of this should be placed over our common denominator of 6. Then we combine. Note that all three terms have a there. They are like terms, so they can be combined to give us one term. So 3a plus 2a, that's 5a. Plus one more a, that's going to be 6a. So it's going to be 6a all over our common denominator of 6. But note, the 6 can divide 6 here. So 6 into 6, that's just 1. And 6 into 6 here, that's just 1. So what we're left back with is just a. So our final answer for this problem is going to be a. Alright? Now for the second one, we have 3 over 5b plus 4 over 7b minus 2 over 5b. Again, what you need is to find a common denominator, right, of all the denominators that we have here. So what would be the common denominator? It's going to be 35b. After we get our common denominator, we are going to take each of these denominators to divide our common denominator. So clearly, b is going to cancel out b, so it's just basically how many groups of 5 can we get out of 35, which is going to be 7. What are we going to do with the 7? Take it to multiply the numerator 3. So it's going to be 7 times 3. And we'll put that in a bracket. And then we'll put back our plus sign. And then, clearly again, the b will cancel out b, so it's basically how many groups of 7 can we get out of 35, which is going to be 5. And we take that 5 to multiply our numerator of 4. So it's going to be 5 times 4. And we'll put back our bracket. Put back our subtraction sign. And then, again, the b will cancel out b, so how many groups of 5 can you get out of 35? It's going to be 7, and we take that 7 to multiply our numerator of 2. And you ensure that you place it in a bracket, right? Then now we carry out the multiplication. So 7 times 3, that's going to give us 21. 5 times 4, that's going to give us 20. Put back our minus sign. And then 7 times 2, that's going to give us 40. And all of this should be placed over our common denominator of 35b. At this stage, what are we going to do? Just basically combine the numerator to give us one term. So 20 minus 14, that's going to leave us with a positive 6. And positive 6 plus 21, that's going to give us positive 27. So our final answer is going to be 27 all over 35b. And we're finished for that. All right. Now for this problem here, we have 4x over 6y minus 10y over 4x. Again, find a common denominator for 6y and 4x. And that's going to be 12xy. Then what should you do from here? Take these denominator to divide your common denominator. And then the result, take it to multiply the respective numerator. So clearly here, y will cancel out this y. So basically, it's just 6 into 12x. And that's going to give us 2x. So we're going to take the 2x to multiply our numerator of 4x. And we're going to place that in a bracket. We're going to put back our subtraction sign. And then it's going to be 4x into 12x. That's going to give us 3y. Because clearly the x will cancel out. And 4 into 12 goes 3. And we still have the y. So it's 3y. And we're going to take that 3y to multiply our numerator of 10y. Right? Then now you carry out the multiplication. So 2x times 4x, that's going to give us 8x squared. So if you didn't see it, it is 2 times 2, it is 2 times 4, that gives you 8, and x times x, that gives you x squared. Put back your minus sign. And then it's going to be 3 times 10. That's going to give us 30. And y times y, that gives us y squared. And all of this should be placed over our common denominator of 12x y. And that's it there. The fraction is in its lowest term. We cannot simplify it any further. Alright? Now for the next one, we have 7a minus 3b over 7. Subtract 2a minus 5b over 3. Again, find our common denominator. So the common denominator of 3 and 7, that's going to be 21. Take 7 to divide 21, that's going to give us 3. Take the 3 that we get to multiply our numerator, which is 7a minus 3b. Close back our bracket, put back our subtraction. Then repeat the process. How many groups of 3 can we get out of 21? That's going to be 7. What should we do with the 7? Take the 7 to multiply our numerator here, which is 2a minus 5b. Alright? At this stage, we have to apply what we call the distributive law. Right? So we're going to apply the distributive law, which is to take what's outside of the bracket to multiply each term inside of the bracket. Right? So we're going to take this 3 to multiply the 7a, and we're going to take the 3 to multiply the minus 3b. Now we have to acknowledge that there's a minus sign here, so we have to treat the 7 as a negative 7. So let me circle it. So we are treating the 7 as a negative 7. So we are taking negative 7 to multiply the first term, which is 2a, and we're also taking negative 7 to multiply the second term, which is negative 5b. All right? So 3 times 7a, that's going to give us 21a. And 3 times a minus 3b, that's going to give us minus 9b. Now here, you have to remember that we are taking negative 7. So negative 7 times 2a, we're going to get negative 14a. Remember that when you multiply a negative number times a negative, it's going to be positive. So negative 7 times a negative 5b, that's going to give us a positive 35b. And all of that is over our common denominator of 21. At this stage now, what we're going to do is to group the like terms. So some terms are b and some terms are a. Right? I leave off the a here. Sorry. So now, if we group the like terms, we're going to group the terms with a first. So it's going to be 21a minus 14a plus, I'm going to put the positive term first. So it's going to be plus 35b minus this 9b here. And all of this should be placed over your common denominator, which is 21. And now we're going to combine the like terms. So 21a minus 14a, that's going to leave us with 7a. Then a positive 35b minus 9b, that's going to leave us with a positive 26b. And all of this should be placed over a common denominator of 21.